Which AFC team are you most confident in?
I'm sticking with the Titans. I mean, listen, when you think about this football team and what Mike Vrabel's done, who, by the way, should be coach of the year, or at least in consideration with everybody else, they've used 88 players, Charlie, 88 players to get where they have. They're the number one seed in the AFC. They lost Derrick Henry. It has not slowed them down. Their offensive production has still been fantastic from the running back position. They are physically dominant on both the offensive line and the defensive line, which can travel in the playoffs. And when I look at them and they get the week off, and with the ability to bring Derrick Henry back, if he's anywhere close to being 100%, this is not a team anybody wants to face. Yeah. They can get after you with the best of them. I like the mentality that Mike Vrabel has put in this football team. They know who they are. Like, make no mistake about every week that they show up, they know exactly what they need to do to win games. I think Mike Vrabel has done a masterful job at making sure players are put in a position to play their best in their best position. And it may not always look like we want it to. It's not sexy. You don't put up a ton of numbers, doesn't put up a ton of, expectations offensively or defensively for that matter. It's just play consistent ball and let the other team make mistakes and beat themselves. It's not an easy way to win, but it is a way to win, and Mike Vrabel has maximized that, and they have taken full advantage, obviously being the number one seed in the AFC.
I think you said it perfectly at the end, is that it's not an easy way to win, but it's a way to win. I think their style of play does limit how many ways they can win a game, which makes it more difficult for me to believe in them. Mike Vrabel is coach of the year. I think you're right about that. And when he was hired, you and I go back a long ways with Mike Vrabel, and he was one of the guys who I knew as soon as he was hired, he was going to be a successful coach because he's honest and straightforward and direct and trustworthy. Like, those are things that you don't think about. You think about like scheme as like why you want to get a coach. No, not if you're the head coach. You're a head coach. You need to have a guy that you can believe in and that commands respect and that also respects his players. And I think Mike Vrabel is that guy, and that's why they're having success. And their resume is the most impressive. Like, all the wins the big wins they've had this season is incredibly impressive. But they've had some really surprising and disappointing losses to some bad football teams. So I think this year is kind of an up in the air, kind of random year in the football. There is nobody who really has run away with it. I guess you can say the Packers seem to be putting some separation, but certainly on the AFC side, there's nobody that has run away with it. And for that reason, I'm going with the Chiefs. And they lost last week to the Bengals in kind of embarrassing fashion because they came back on them from up by 2 touchdowns, I think it was. But I still think that when I don't know what I can trust, which I feel like that's fair to say, none of us really know what we can trust or who we can trust on the AFC side. I just put my money on the talent and the talent of Patrick Mahomes and those weapons they have on the offense and the defense that has been playing better despite being eviscerated last week by Joe Burrow. They've been playing better on defense. Like, I can put my trust in that team that has shown us a track record of getting it done in amazing fashion in the postseason. And their opportunities or ways they can win compared to the Titans, they just have a bigger breadth of ways to win. Like, they can go down by a bunch and come back and win the game. The Titans know that. The Chiefs did that to the Titans in the playoffs a couple years ago. So, like, that stuff to me is why I'm leaning more on the Chiefs. And maybe it's just that I can't look at any of these other teams and trust them because I haven't seen them do it in recent history, and they've all had really bad, disappointing losses so far this year.
Yeah, I would say this. It's hard for me with the Chiefs especially to just kind of co-sign for they can do it the same way they've done it in the past, because this is not the same football team that it was in the past. They are not nearly as explosive as they a couple, even last year. And I still think there's some question marks at their offensive line, at the tackle position, and being able to protect Patrick Mahomes, who I think under pressure has not performed at the same level because of the pressure. And that's just being honest. I think Kelsey is obviously a stud. Hill is a stud. Patrick Mahomes is one of the elite quarterbacks in our game. I also kind of tend to slide over in the defensive category for the Chiefs. They are a risky Spagnuolo. I mean, he likes to bring that pressure. He likes to get in people's head. He wants to play aggressive defense. I think in the playoffs, there is high risk and high reward. I understand that. There's also risk that can cost you. And when I saw it last week against the Bengals, bring 3rd and 27, you're bringing 7 dudes. I do not understand that philosophy. So either that has to change to a degree, make better decisions as far as that goes. Because when I look at this team, they're not nearly as scary to me this year as they have been the past 2 years.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said that they were. I agree with you, but we just saw that they do have the capability of putting up big numbers. And I think that's why I lean towards them, because I feel less confident that the Titans are able to do that. And the Titans can rush the passer up front, but their secondary is not really all that healthy or good, frankly. And that, to me, seems like a matchup issue. So they can run the ball well, but I mean, if they match up against the Chiefs, I can see the Chiefs not stopping them offensively, but they're certainly going to slow them down because that offensive style of play is a slow style of play. But what are they going to do on the other side with Patrick Mahomes if he is on his game, which it seems like he has been recently?
I mean, all I have to say is I know the Titans have to be so happy to more than likely getting Derrick Henry back for this end of the season, heading into the playoffs. Even after missing 8 games, fellas, Henry still ranked 6th in the NFL for rushing and tied for 6th in rushing touchdowns, along with Jalen Hurts. So that is extremely, extremely impressive.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.